So welcome to this episode of How to Get the Most Out of Your AJC Coaching Career School experience. It's my absolute privilege and honor today to have Ankush Jain, my friend, my mentor, who founded, created, leads the AJC Coaching Career School. So Kush, welcome this morning.
It's an absolute honor to be here, Dave. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, pleasure. I know many people. I'm really excited about hearing this, and we were just talking off camera a little bit there about what you'd like to get across. So I'd like to start with that today, really, Kush, if that's okay with you. Can you pick up where we were in our conversation prior to hitting record, and start to talk and share with everybody about how this whole thing has evolved for you, how this has been part of your journey, and how you see it in the bigger context of what you feel you're here to do for the coaching community?
Yeah, I mean, you and I, as I said on the webinar last night, you and I have been aware of each other or in this profession at least for over a decade now.
Yeah.
And we've done some work together. You brought me in to assist you a few years ago in some work in schools. And over the years, I know we've had some conversations about, off the record conversations about the industry and what's offered to coaches and the training. And it was indicative of a lot of conversations I had with people, and the conversations were some version of, a lot of the advice and coaching and training offered to coaches just isn't it all that it's cracked up to be in terms of the business end of things, right? The piece around how do you create clients, how do you enroll people, how do you make this a profession that is well paid. And in fact, so many times, forget about well paid, people aren't even getting it to a stage where they can live
off the it's badly paid.
Yeah, it's bad. It's very badly paid. And so, and I'd have these conversations with coaches, all over the place. And I started working with Steve Chandler in 2015. And I did a lot of due diligence before hiring a coach. And I spoke to a lot of coaches because there were a lot of people going, oh yeah, I can help you, Kush. I can help you grow your practice. And in the end, I went and worked with Steve, who's known as the godfather of coaching for good reason. He's incredible. And I've worked with him for 8.5 years and kind of extracted pretty much everything that I could from him in that time. And I realized the things he was sharing with me, one, I hadn't got from anywhere else. Two, often they were the exact opposite of what, the common wisdom or what most people teach coaches. And three, there was some tweaking of it because, Steve's based in the US, the UK, Europe is a different market. There are differences, but actually I was able to tweak what he was saying, with not too much, but to make it appropriate to the UK and to Europe. And what's happened is over the years, I found that at the beginning, it was like, it sounds like what I'm saying is very similar to other people, right? And I was talking to a client of mine this morning, who Peter McCammon, and he goes, Kush, when I first came across you, he goes, I thought you sounded the same. And it took me a bit of time to realize, oh, it isn't. There are nuances and subtleties that aren't so subtle. And what's happened is I started coaching coaches because I was complaining to Steve Chandler about the state of the industry. This is way back in 2015.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this person needs to do that differently, or this program needs to be different. And he said, well, why don't you coach coaches? And I went, I'm not going to coach coaches, not proper coaching. I don't want to do that. And he said,
yeah, coaches aren't proper people to work with.
No, of course not. And he said, well, do coaches need help? And I said, yeah, desperately. Every coach I meet, like, that's the biggest challenge for them. And he said, can you help them? And I went, oh, of course. I mean, everything I've learned from you. I mean, this is 2015. So I've been working with him only for about a year at this stage. I said, yeah, absolutely. This is so helpful, everything you've shared with me. And he said, well, what's your problem? And it was like one of those jaw-dropping moments where I was like, right? But it was always one-on-one. I did a few group programs. Steve and I did a group program in 2016, and then one in 17, and then 18, and I did one in 19 before the pandemic. But they're always smaller things. And I was reluctant actually to do a school because, well, Steve had a school and his school was great. And I like doing my one-on-one stuff. And then Steve planted the seed for me because he was retiring and he was kind of finishing up his school about creating one. And I started think about it and I thought, yeah, I could do that. And I had some reservations because I don't ever like doing anything that's not great. I'd rather not do it. And so I started thinking about, well, okay, if I'm going to do it, how can I do it to make it great? So I flew actually over to Michigan last year and I went, Steve, right, we spent a day and a half together. I went, right, I want to create this with you in a way that I feel confident that I can go out to someone and say, I think you should sign with the school because it's going to be amazing. Yeah. Right. So that's exactly what we did. Now, here's something that's really interesting. The first school I delivered, it exceeded my, even though I had a high bar, exceeded my expectations. And I realized something as I'm delivering it. This isn't just a business project that I work on. This isn't just part of my thing that I do. I realized I'm leading a movement. So I've been kind of complaining about the state of the coaching industry, as so many people do, right? And about the marketers and you know, shady people and people who I think frankly prey on people's insecurities on the worst side, and sometimes are just not very effective on the other side. And I realized I want to change that. And as I've started seeing bigger for myself in the work that I've done for myself, I was like, yeah, why not be me? So the school, yes, the way that it looks is, yes, I'm running a school, but really what I'm really leading in my mind is a movement to totally transform the industry and put all the marketers out of business. Because if I deliver what I say I'm going to deliver, right, and I've got a track record of actually doing that, this is going to grow. It won't just be led by me. I mean, they're going to be more and more coaches who know how to create income. Some of them will work with other coaches. That's fine by me. I don't need to own it. And we're going to create a change, because right now we don't have loads of role models in this industry of saying, oh, well, look, there's an example. That we've got very few role models, but with this school that's changing. And so to me, this really is a movement, and I think it's going to gather momentum. And I think my vision is we will look back in a decade's time and say, well, that was something that changed it. That was the turning point.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I mean, like, I'd encourage anybody listening, and I'm certainly going to do it. Like, I think one of the things I found really interesting and challenging about doing these interviews, like with the graduates and now this morning with yourself, is as I'm hearing you, I'm transforming. So it's live, it's real time rewiring and thinking and like, oh, that's interesting. And then I've got to ask you questions and do stuff. So it's that whole juxtaplay. But there's a couple of things that really stuck out for me there. And I just want to point them out really and see what you think about it. Because you said on the call last night, we had the first pre-course call, didn't we, for the School of 2023, which, you know, people know I'm part of, I've signed up for. And interesting, when I say I've signed up for, I think that alone is like a really interesting statement. So it's not just that you sent me an invoice and I've chucked you some cash. That actually is a symptom, I think, of the fact that I've signed up for this. I can see who you are, known you for a long time, you know the industry in the same way. I've had quite a similar experience of the industry in the same way, similar frustration. So I've signed up for that. And I think this is really going to speak to people. And I had somebody message me this morning who we both know, similar trajectory to ours, about the similar kind of time, 2009, 10, 11, 12, that kind of period. And basically was saying, you know, love you, love what you're up to, still massively cynical about it. However, willing to hold the space, join you on the next groupie thing you're doing, whatever. And I wrote back to him and I said, I'm so pleased you're cynical. Right? My advice is stay in the cynicism as long as you can, because it's like fitness, isn't it? It's those last few seconds of stretch where all the benefit comes in. So you hold out for as long as you can. Like, is this genuine? Is this the real thing? Oh, life, it is. and you're in. And so a couple of things stuck out in what you were saying, like about the reluctance to take it on. And then you used the phrase, well, why not me? And I wonder how many people are going to resonate with that and think about whatever they're up to. Well, maybe why not? Why not me? So can you just talk about that pivot point where you kind of went, oh man, I could create a school, which is ultimately part of a movement, because that's really the game I'm in. I'm in the movement game. Does that make sense?
It's been a journey, because even when I look back to 2015, and I don't know if you remember this, I started my group for coaches, and it started with something like 40 or 50 people in the group. I just invited a bunch of people. And there was, and this post is, if you are really that bothered, you can go back and find it. There was a lady who wrote a comment, I think. People went, oh, well done, great group, thanks for pulling us together. And one lady wrote this thing of like, oh, you as well, Kush. Right, like, oh, are you now jumping on the bandwagon of coaching coaches, and who are you to do it? And it was like, it was a thing that I really feared. I really historically have been someone who really cared what people thought about me, right? Like, not that this defines me, but being bullied at school and all the rest of it, my way of trying to survive that was have people like me, then I'll be safe, right? And so that was like, I remember I don't know if I've ever spoken about this on camera. I literally got into bed, I pulled the covers over my head, right? And I stayed there for about 10 or 15 minutes. And then I was like, you're okay. I took the covers off and I responded to her in a loving way. And I said something like, I can see how it looks like that, and it's not that. And I'm coming from a different place because I'm kind of rallying against that. But over the years, I've had people directly or indirectly, or I hear about it from other people, judging me for doing this work. And I had someone recently do that, who sent me a message, and they were saying, look, we're very different, but anyway, they sent me this message, and I said, I don't think we are that different. I think actually it might look like it, but I think we're both on the same team. I love this profession. I love this industry. I want people to succeed. Right. And therefore, rather than me just criticizing the way it is, I want to try and do something about it. But it's been a real journey, and it wasn't easy. And I remember one lady once messaged me on my Facebook thing, and she was like, oh man, I wish I had your confidence. And I messaged back like, that you're missing it. It's not confidence. I have been facing all of my insecurities and everything over the last however many years, because it was like I didn't fix that first, right? I didn't fix that first and then go and do this. It was like, it's been dealing with it as I've going along. And what's happened is, the longer I've been on that journey, the more I've got comfortable in myself, the more I've got self-assured, and my professional self-esteem has risen. And especially in the last year and a half working with Steve Hardison, that's really been strengthened. And so, it has been why not me? But even a year ago, Dave, I had doubts. Like, God, can I really do this? Is this really gonna happen? And I was just like, well, Steve Chandler thinks I can do it, and he doesn't. That's not something that he takes lightly. And I've done loads of stuff so far that I didn't think I was going to do. So let's have a go.
Yeah, let's have a go at that one. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I love that. I love that distinction about confidence that you shared. And I love that you shared, I really acknowledge you for that, sharing the under the duvet moment. I mean, it just brought, I'd forgotten, I've had so many under the duvet moments, over the years, and people paint us with whatever picture they paint us, but that's so honest to be able to see that and acknowledge it and recognize it, and then just carry on anyway. Like you clean up, tidy up, and off you go. You're on to the next thing. It's interesting about the you're saying over the last sort of year and a half, you've really sort of got into your depth of professional skill, if you like. I really noticed that on the call last night. That really came across. And I quickly saw a post I think somebody put on Facebook just before we started chatting this morning. And somebody said, I think roughly, if all they had was last night's call, actually they'd be quite happy if they couldn't come to London and couldn't do any of the other stuff. And I really felt that as well. And I think that comes out of the integrity of the school being a byproduct of a commitment to something greater. Like, I rarely take notes on things. It's very rare. I wrote sides of notes last night. I was looking down and scribbling on my book. It's right here in front of me right now. So that, that's really, really incredible, I think, to see. You've got people who are coming back to do the school for a second time. And I know you shared last night that you did Steve Chandler's school 3 times. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
And your only regret is you wish you'd done it 300 times or as many times as it could be. Is that something you're expecting? Were you expecting people to sign up again? Has that surprised you?
It hasn't surprised me. I had a feeling that people would come back again because, like I said, it's not like a book. It's a gym, right? I don't see it as here's information. It's like, this is something that you use. However, the number we now got as of right now, and it may increase, but as of right now, we've got 9 people out of 21 who have renewed.
Wow.
And when I spoke to Steve Chandler, who's got way more experience than me, he was saying, you normally get like 20 to 30% of people. Like 30% is really high.
Yeah.
So, 30% would have been 6 or 7. So the fact that I've got 9 to, it's like we're now hitting 40%. So to me, that's kind of better than expectation.
Yeah.
But I was kind of secretly inside hoping for that. Like, I was like, I want to make this so good that the renewals will be really high. And that's kind of how I've run, my one-on-one business as well. It's like I always try and over deliver and make it so good that people come back. And I always think about how to, whatever I do next, how to make that better. So, that's certainly been very deliberate, but it's not a trick. It's not like, hey, if you come back, you get it for free or something like that. I'm not trying to trick people into it. It's like, no, this is a gym, we're going to keep the momentum up. I'm going to make this amazing. And people who have signed up, they've already told me it's like they feel like they just keep going and the momentum's carrying them forward. And the businesses are really, really growing. I mean, that's what's been powerful. And I knew that. And I know this with any program I do, whether it's for coaches or non-coaches, renewals comes from actually people changing. It's not from, I had a nice time, I was in a nice feeling, I met wonderful people. That's all great, but ultimately people will renew if the program does what it says on the tin. So if people in the school grow their businesses, make more money, create more income, and see a pathway, then they're going to come back again.
I love that. I mean, we both came through traditions where there were meetings and retreats and everything where, well, certainly to me, I don't know what your experience was, but the goal was to get into a beautiful feeling. And that's lovely, right? I like a hot bath in the evening and I love going into the sauna and whatever. But to me, that isn't what coaching is about. It's about change and about movement and shift. And I think you're right. When that happens for people, then they will want to come back, because it's a little bit like the Book of Being, isn't it? The Ultimate Coach. Every time I re-listen to it, mostly I've got it on Audible, every single time, and I'm on my 10th Audible run through, it's like I've never heard it before. And you started the meeting last night by saying, come empty. And I'm like, I'm not even sure. And I'm not saying I've nailed it, because I'm sure I'll bring some perceptions in or whatever. But it was like the first time I'd heard things. And I think that's why I just had so many notes. It was like, oh yeah, of course I would want to do that. Oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I think when we really feel that, like when we really see that from ourselves, then like a gym membership, if you're not getting any value from your gym, you're not creating that value yourself, you don't have a trainer, you're not working out regularly, you're not stretching, you're not doing all the stuff you want to do because you've got a goal of movement, then there's no point in belonging to the gym. But if you're doing all those other things, then why would you stop?
Yeah.
Particularly, like in business, if you're making money, which ultimately is the goal, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't want to discount the nice feeling stuff. I think it
Not at all. No.
it can be useful, because I think when you have a nice feeling, like if the group has a good feeling and a connection, that facilitates it. But you're right, that's part of the journey. That's not the end point.
Yeah.
I
love that.
And I'm like, I create programs that I would like to attend. So I just think about that. It's really easy for me. Well, what would have me come back to another school? What would have me come back to another men's immersion? What would have me re-signed with me if I was being coached? Right. And it's not like crazy. It's like, well, I actually wouldn't just sign up for being in a community. It's nice to be in a community. It's nice to be around people, but I wouldn't sign up just for that. Well, what would make me sign up? Oh, well, if I knew I did this program again and I'd grow my business by X amount, then I would sign up. Okay. Now the question is, how can I help facilitate that change for someone who signs up? And you've pointed to a little bit of it, which is a lot of it is to the way people show up. And for me, that's one of the things. And I'm already thinking about it off the back of last night, to create something, content and context, to help people see this isn't a passive school. This isn't something that you sign up to, you sit down, you watch the webinars, make some notes, turn up to the school, meet everyone, don't say anything, and go home and go, oh, right, yeah, I did the school. It's much more active than that, right? It's interactive. You have to participate and then take action off the back of it. That's how it works. And I've been very clear with people. Some will say, hey, do you think I should do the school? And I'm like, it depends, right? Do you want to grow your practice? And are you willing to do the work? Right. And if you can't, and frankly, there are some people who say, do you know what? I've got this and this and this on. I don't know how much time I'll have. And I'll say, well, just know that will limit the return you get. And you might be okay with that, but let's just be honest about what that looks like and what is required.
That's really exciting, though, isn't it? I mean, that was certainly, part of my own journey and motivation to sign for the school, was like that potential to go all in on it and to really see what I could create if I really committed. Because in the past, I've played a game of where it's almost like, it's like a dissociation thing of pretending I'm committed, but kind of hanging out in the vein of, I'm not sure about that. It's that versus, well, I wonder who I'd be if, it's that phrase, isn't it? I wonder who I'd be if I just threw everything that I've got at it, like all energy I've got, and went in as openly as I could, got as much feedback as I could, and implemented like instantly. That's the big thing I've tried to do already, is just implement, so I can really see what works for me and what I need to develop and learn more deeply. Amazing. So you've got a few places left?
Yeah, we've got 10 places left, which is, it to me is insane. Again, going by Steve, normally these things take about 3 months to fill. And some people still don't sell out their programs. The last school sold out in 2 months. Okay, there were fewer places, but it was my first school, but that was very, very, very quick. And this time, it's even quicker. So, yesterday I sold 3 spots. Most days I seem to be selling 1 or 2 spots on the school. So I don't know if there'll be any left by the time this actually gets published.
I know. I just think, well, I'm gonna put it out this week, actually. I think that's what I'm going to do. But I can see that this will be sold out in days.
Yeah,
if it isn't
think
sold
so.
out by the end of April, I'll be amazed.
Yeah,
utterly amazed. That's amazing. Kush, I could pin you down for hours, but I know you've got a really busy schedule with everything you're creating. I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you for allowing me into the school. Thank you for your friendship and being there. When you phoned me a couple of, well, probably several weeks ago now, just off the cuff, it meant so much. And it was a key turning point in my transformation. Yeah, amazing. Just thank you for being you.
Oh, thanks, Dave. That really means a lot, and I want to really acknowledge you, because I have shared with people about how to get the most from the school, and people have shown up in incredible ways and really played full out. And I've never had anyone show up as the way you've shown up. And so I know that, what you're going to get from this school is just going to be incredible, just because of the way you're showing up, and the fact that you're not only, showing up to get a lot for it from you, or for yourself, but also doing it in a way where you're sharing that with other people as well. And I can see it. I can see people following you. You have a big following online. Like, you are living incredible service. And so I want to thank you, because I really see you as someone who's helping me, create this change in the industry. You are a key part of the movement as far as I'm concerned. So I really appreciate you for that.
Thank you. That's really kind. I'll put the links underneath to the school information if there's still any spots by Saturday morning at 9 o'clock when this will go out. If people want to ask you any questions or get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that, Kush?
Probably either you contact me on Facebook if we're connected, or you can go to my website, which is ankushjain.co.uk, ANKUSHJAIN.co.uk. If you put a little /AJC at the end of that, it will take you direct to the page, or you can navigate from the menu. And one thing I say to people, look, even if this thing sells out by the time you become aware of it, please read the webpage. And there's a link there to the brochure. There's no signups needed. We're not collecting any of your data. And we've created a 74-page brochure with so much value in it. And it's done deliberately, that I want anyone who reads the brochure of this to feel like, wow, that's something I would have paid for. So please do that.
Amazing. Kush, once again, thank you so much for your time this morning. And yeah, I can't wait for, well, the school started in my view, so I can't wait for it to continue.
Thanks, Dave. Great to be here.